All right, so welcome to Semper Sometimes with Benny. I always forget to open my drink, so that's going to happen. But I really wanted to. Well, first of all, I want to shout out to my son because my son is the first person to ever be in the audience as this is happening. So that's pretty cool. He's sitting over on his tablet, but so I wanted to. This month is domestic violence awareness month, and there's a lot of other things like that October's awareness month for. But I think it's something that we really don't talk about, and I feel like a lot of people are afraid to talk about it because they don't know who to talk about it to. But one of the biggest things that I really wanted to do was have somebody come on here and talk about their experiences with it, and then talk about what they're doing to combat it. So without further ado, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. I appreciate that. Just being on the show. So so can you just tell the audience who you are and what it is you do, how long were you in the military, and we'll go from there.
So my name is Lonnie Hankins. I'm the host of the Cruise Corner podcast and also an independent author. Been writing for pretty much just this year for published works, but I've been writing since I was in the military. Served in the Army for 6 years. Most of it was active duty. Served out of Fort Riley, Kansas with Quarter Cav. Deployed with them for support of Operation Enduring Freedom back in 2012, 2013. Didn't really do a whole lot of cool shit in the military. I mean, I just kind of did time like a lot of other people do. When I switched over to the reserves, that's when I started realizing I was having the transition issues because it was it felt more civilian than military. It was kind of like cosplay to me. It wasn't enough time in the uniform to feel like I was still a part of it. So that's where I started writing more because a lot of
how long, I'm sorry to interrupt you. How long were you out of question? Can you hear my son's tablet?
No.
Okay. All right. I just want to make sure it's not in the way of the episode. No, I wanted to ask you, so how long in between you getting out of the Army and then switching over to the reserves was there? How much transition time was there between that?
It was immediate.
Oh, okay. So you got out knowing I'm going to go to the reserve program.
Yeah, it was literally, I cut a deal with the Army because I went in with the 8-year contract of the 4 in for active and the ready reserve for the next 4. And the deal on the table was if you go to the reserves immediately upon the ETS date from active duty, we will cut your ready reserve time in half. So you'll only have to do 2 and then you'll be done.
Yeah.
No callbacks. I was just like, yeah, I'm done.
Yeah,
like I want to get through it. So I went over to the reserve end immediately. So there was literally like a 3-week gap of not doing anything and then went straight in.
Yeah.
So, but it was a big enough gap to realize like, oh, wow, like this is weird. Like not going to work every day and not really having that routine. And of course you go to a whole new unit, went to a whole other state. So I lost all my buddies. And so then it was just like, okay, like I'm by myself again. Like this is weird.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing, and it's like it's funny because a lot of people. I've been in the reserves my 12 years in the Marine Corps, but I did do 4 years on recruiting duty, and that's the thing that I always try to. So like it was weird for me because I did 8 years in the reserve program, and then I went 4 years on active duty for recruiting duty, and then I came back to the reserve program, and then I felt different coming back now having been on active duty for 4 years. Like, yeah, I wasn't in the fleet, but I was active duty every single day. I was wearing the uniform every single day. I was talking to higher ups every single day. Like I was talking to Marines. They were the only people that I was talking to. So then coming back to the reserve program, it was so different, like only dealing with it for 2 or 3 days. And then like, and a lot of people don't understand this, but like when you're in the higher ends part of it, like the staff NCO and above, it's not just a 2 or 3 day thing. It's like you have conference calls, you have meetings and stuff like that. But I definitely try to explain to people that are coming from the active duty program to the reserves, like, hey, listen, man, like they are 2 totally different worlds. Like I don't know how the Army is, but like the Marine Corps, it's night and day. The leadership is very different. And people say, oh, no, it's not. It is. It's completely night and day because, the things that like it's just different people, like on the active duty side, the average Lance Corporal is what, 18, 19 years old, or the average specialist, is 18, 19 years old, maybe 20. And a lot of times the only thing they know is the Army or the Marine Corps. Vice versa, on the reserve side of the house, most of these 19, 20-year-olds are like, I have some guys who are 19, 20 years old who are Lance Corporals, but they're CEOs of their own companies or their management in their school and whatever industry they work in. Or like, like the unit I just checked into, every single one of the guys in the unit that I just checked into is either NYPD, FDNY, or in some sort of union. So it's a very different type of leadership that's needed to be in the reserve program, at least that I think, because it's not the same thing. It's there are I don't want to say that like active duty isn't free thinkers, but on the reserve side of the house, there's just so much more that goes into that Marine and his life, and in the Army as well.
Yeah.
So what was it? So how long did you do your 2 years in the reserves? Is that what
Yeah.
ended up?
Yeah,
Okay.
I did the 2 years. So I got out just like shy of my 6 year period because of how there was something with the way it lined up with my ETS date. So I was like just shy of hitting my 6 year mark. And but yeah, it was night and day when I went over from the active Army to Army Reserve, because I didn't even feel like there was like I was a specialist, so I didn't feel like I deserved any respect, really. Like I didn't feel like I had much, but like when I was standing next to NCOs on the reserve end that had never deployed, had never really done major Army stuff other than like a 2-week field op or something like that.
Yeah.
And I got treated like I was a private again. And it was kind of like, I feel like I've done my time and done
Yeah. I
some
feel like
stuff.
irate.
Like I feel like, I've made my spot here. And so there was a lot of just feeling like, and when I came into my unit, they're like, you're not allowed to do your job because we don't feel that you're qualified. And I was like, but I've done this in a deployment setting. I've like, what
Wait,
is different here? And they're like, yeah, you're not allowed to touch a computer because like the cadets can do it. Like, so I came in, I was already kind of bitter from active duty. And then I came to reserves. And I was like, oh, this is just crap.
Yeah.
like I really don't want to be here. So like that 2 years of the reserves dragged on way more than that 4 years of active duty did.
Really?
And it made it to where I kind of thought if I keep a foot in the door, it'll be an easier transition. And because I'll still kind of be a part of it. And if I want to turn around and go back, I can. And the reserves left a really bad taste in my mouth for the military, where I completely isolated myself once I got out. And I didn't want to have anything to do with anybody. And in isolation is where you turn on yourself because you're in your head. And that's where I realized like, oh, okay, like now this is where the real transition trouble is going to start.
No, yeah. And it's very, and that's why it's hard, because I definitely agree with you, on that end, because it's just like I've met some really, and it's both, it's active duty, it's reserves, it's civilian world, it's everything. Like you meet some really, really stellar people, and then you meet some like really, really disgusting people, and I'm sorry, there's no lack of a better, it's like, that's just the better word that I could use, because, this just happened to me, I checked into this new unit, and the day that I'm checking in, there was a whole bunch of people checking out. And I ended up becoming really good friends with these 3 Marines that were checking out, because they were leading me through the building. They had been there for the past 10 years. So they knew everyone who needed to sign everything. So while they were checking out, I was checking in. So we spent like the next 2 days just going through everything. And I was like, I went over to to one of the guys in the platoon, and I was like, hey man, I was like, this is probably, I shouldn't have to ask this question, but I was like, did y'all think about like getting them a plaque or like letting them give a going away speech? And they were like, oh no, man, we already released the Marines. They went home. I didn't want to hold them up. And then I was like, okay, well, what about like, getting them a plaque? Oh, well, we didn't know they were checking out, and we can work on that or whatever. And then I was like, okay, well, good thing is I know someone who makes plaques, and I started showing them, and some of them were like, oh wow, that's really expensive. I was like, dude, there's 100 of us in the platoon. like $1 a person. Like, what are we talking about here? And it bothered me because I was just like, bro, these Marines, whether they're reservists or not, the one staff sergeant deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan, I believe, did 12 years in the Marine Corps, and he's leaving here with his foot in his mouth. You didn't even give him the opportunity to say goodbye to the 100 Marines that he just spent the past 12 years leading because you didn't want to hold them up. And it was just like, it was so bothersome to me. So I ended up reaching out to one of the other sergeants and I was like, hey, listen, man, I was like, reach out to all the lance corporals and the corporals and find out how much money we can raise up because I want to buy each one of them a going away plaque because like, and then they can just come back next drill and we can just see them because it's just, if you don't do that, number one, it's not only the simple fact that it's right to be done, but if you don't do that, then the PFCs, the privates, are going to look at that and be like, bro, that dude just did 12 years here and no one gave a damn that he's leaving. And then they're going to immediately lose respect for you, for everybody let it happen. And then they're going to be like, wow, why do I want to work for that person? But if you show them, the opposite of it, and that's why I'm saying like there's some really, really good people out there. And then there's really some people that are just like, bro, why are you even here still? Like, you should just not be here. Like, just go somewhere else, man. Like, and that's the thing too. And it's on both ends of the spectrum. Like, talking about toxicity and just talking about how people don't and this happened too. Like, somebody was like, someone like cut through the ranks, right? And a Marine walked like backed out of the rank, out of the platoon, and someone said, I don't know who it was, but someone was like, all right, thing. And I was like, bro, in my mind, I'm like, okay, you work at a civilian job. If your boss ever called you thing, there'd be like some human resources shit going on. Like, there'd be a huge problem. But in the military, it's like, oh, it's okay. It's okay that I just referred to you as to whatever the heck I want to. And it's
Yeah.
and that's the thing. And then for people to look at you and be like, hey, you're not competent enough to do your job, even though you just did it in an active live capacity for the past 4 years of your life, to now say you can't do that. Like, who the hell are you? And then it's also bullshit that like you ever had to feel like, I understand that like there is a rank structure. I understand that there is, billets. I understand those things. I understand that, there's a chain of command and stuff like that. But the fact that you feel lesser than because you're not an NCO, or that you feel that you can't be a part of that group, or that you feel that you can't go to them to talk to them because you're not an NCO, like, that's fucking bullshit. Like, you should be able to, freely go up to somebody. And again, I'm not saying go skip your chain of command or anything like that. But it's like, and I've had that happen. Like, oh, good afternoon, Sergeant Major. Do you mind if I ask you a question? Well, did you go to all the other Marines before you came to me? It's like, bro, why can't we just, like say hi to each other and just have a normal conversation like we're grown ass adults? Like, I
Yeah.
understand, like, again, I get it because sometimes people take that way too far and you're like, hey, whatever, but I don't know. But so so you said you're a writer, and you also have a podcast. What types of things do you write about? And also what got you into writing?
Well, what got me into writing was that whole military mentality of you can't talk about your problems. And especially like a lot of people think like the guys have it harder because you have to keep up that masculine image, stuff like that. Like you can't talk about your problems. But for the women, it's not much different because you come in against a stereotype that you're going to be a whiner, you're going to cry, you're going to always be hurt, there's going to be problems. So you're trying to fight against the stereotype that you're going to be weak. And so for me, the easiest way to deal with a lot of the issues that I dealt with when I was in the military was just to write about it because you can't really talk about it. And being in a cav unit and in a maintenance platoon, most of the people around me are guys. So I don't want to like talk about my stuff necessarily because they don't feel like they can talk about theirs. So it was my way of trying to kind of release some of the tension from the things I dealt with because I dealt with stuff like military sexual trauma from the minute I got in to my first duty station. And I dealt with harassment and stuff like that. And when you can't talk about it to anybody, it's going to weigh you down. And I
Yeah.
wanted to just do my job. I came in with goals. I had a dream, in place when I was joining the military. And to try to hold on to that, that's how I coped with it. And
What
Then I
was,
kind of got picked.
if you don't mind me asking, what was the dream and the goals?
When I came in, I really wanted to be a warrant officer. I had this idea that I was gonna like, and as a woman, it was like, I'm gonna rank up. I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna be something. My dad had been in the military. I had grandfathers that were in the military. And it was just this idea of like, I'm gonna go further than what everybody else has done. And I'm gonna make this a career and, retire at an age where I can maybe still function. I didn't realize how much the military aged you at that time. So I didn't realize getting out at 40 that you do feel like you're 80. But it was just this idea of like, this is gonna be my life.
Yeah.
And it was taken away really early on. I realized within the first month of being at my first duty station
Oh,
that I
wow.
did not want to be there.
Oh,
And dealt with a lot of just rough stuff. And there were a lot of guys there, like, I don't want to sound like, oh, I hate all male soldiers and stuff like that, because there were a lot of guys that did accept me. But the ones that don't want you there speak very loud about it, and they will make your life hell. And I had a lot of female soldiers that made my life hell because there's this idea that to survive, you have to break down your sisters to stay on top, to be seen as one of the guys.
yeah.
And so I took a lot of harassment from other female soldiers that even after military sexual trauma, they used it against me, started spreading rumors and stuff like that. And so it's just kept getting beat in that like, she's a slut, she's this,
Yeah.
that's how she's gonna rank up. That's all she'll ever be. And then for me, that kind of destroyed that drive of like, well, if I ever get a rank that's worth note, everyone's gonna think it took being on my knees to get it. So it'll never
Yeah.
mean the same to me because someone's gonna destroy that too. So then the goal just became do your time and get out. And so it's just
Yeah.
like, just get through it. And so the writing is what got me through a lot of that. And then when I went through the transition of being alone, and the people I was closest to, one of which was someone I got really close to on my deployment because we were locked up in a guard tower all the time. He ended up committing suicide. And it
Oh,
was
shit.
like, okay, like, and then like a year went by and another person committed suicide. And then a month went by and another person from my unit committed suicide. And it was like, maybe this is all that we have once we get out. Maybe military is the best years of our life. And if you can't make it there, or you didn't come out being worth anything to make it on the civilian end, like there's nowhere to go.
Yeah.
And so the writing was what I tried to use to kind of keep myself tethered here.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then I started sharing it anonymously through a blog that I was encouraged to make when I went back to school by one of my professors. And I started realizing I'm not the only one that feels this bad. I'm not the only one, like I'm not alone and feeling broken
Yeah.
and tired and stuff
It's
like
so,
that.
but what's so weird though is that even though, like you said, you were bullied physically, mentally, emotionally, you were talked down to but then you also had the good times. You still felt like it when you got out, you felt alone. And it's like you missed all of those things encompassing. And it's a weird thing because like I definitely relate to you. And it's a lot of people that feel that way. And that's just the reality. And I'm glad I started my podcast, and I'm glad all of us that have started podcasts have started them, because it's like the fact that you can't say the things that you want to say in uniform is bullshit. Like, because, and I'm not saying like I should, like, I understand, like, if I'm in uniform and I want to go boycott something, that's completely wrong. But if there's something going on and there's an issue with something, I should be able to freely go to somebody and say, hey, this is going on. I want this to change, and it should change because of this. Now, mind you, again, do people, are there people out there who, bitch, moan, and complain about everything? Yes. But I don't believe, like, hearing you talk, you're not that person. You're talking about like legitimate shit. And the thing that sucks is that, like, when did you join the army?
2011,
Okay, so you were how old?
22.
Okay, so you joined the military, right? You decided to put your hand up. You decided to swear an oath, and you made a decision with goals in mind, right? And now what sucks is that we're having this conversation about like, oh, well, what happened to those goals and those dreams and those aspirations? And all of those things changed. Now, mind you, maybe there's a greater good. Maybe there's a reason why it happened. There's a purpose behind it that maybe we don't understand yet, and you don't understand. But the reality of it is that your youth and the things that you wanted for yourself were taken away from you because somebody thought, one, they were better than you, or to they just wanted to degrade you mentally, physically, or emotionally. And it's just like, I don't understand the lack, like I don't understand why there's so much hatred again, like amidst each other. And you guys kind of talked about it in that one round table episode. You know, you and it's effed up, and the other guy, the person from
Yes, for maintenance.
cancels for maintenance. But like, it's the reality of it. Like, everyone's like, oh hey, you know, I've got your six, or oh hey, I've got this. Well, where the fuck were you when when we were in the military, or
Yeah.
where are you now? Like, you know, I hear so many people that are like, hey man, you know, if you never need anything, you know, hit me up. And it's like, okay, but why don't you just hit me up? Like, why don't you just reach out to me and be like, hey man, what's good? Um, and you know, I definitely understand where you're coming from, because there's just so much divisiveness in a place that's supposed to make you better. And but what's weird though is, like, when you do get out, the people that you meet or the camaraderie that builds, I feel like a lot of times veterans are closer to each other when they're not in the military than they are when they're
Oh, for
actually
sure.
in.
Sure.
Like, when they're out, they're like, oh yeah, brother, what's going on? And it's like, you know, and even like with this podcast, like, I've never talked to anybody in the army until I started my podcast. Now I've had, you know, a bunch of different people from all different areas. And you know, it's just, you know, it just sucks to know that, you know, you join the military for a reason, for a purpose, and then because of the toxicity of it, you decided to get out. And it sucks because, like, you have the people that are like, oh well, if you wanted to, and if you cared enough, you would have stayed in. It's like, bro, if I'm one person and I'm surrounded by toxicity, like, come on, like, let's just be real here. Like, it's not gonna happen. But I don't know. But I'm glad that you started writing, and it sucks. It's like, you know, it sucks that the shitty shit has to happen for the good to happen.
Yeah.
Like, but then you wouldn't have had anything to write about, and then you got to go over there, buddy. Like, you know, it's crazy. But so you said, okay, so now, if you don't mind sharing with us, you know, you kind of talked about it a little bit, but what happened to you, you know, in the domestic sense, like, what happened to you, if you don't mind sharing with us, that caused all of the writing to come out?
So I started dealing with some domestic issues while I was still in the reserves. I was kind of on the way out. And that was one of the big reasons why I got out, because I had had my daughter a couple months before the contract was up for that. And I knew I couldn't leave her behind with her dad, because he's not good people. He's one of those
Mm-hmm.
disgusting people. And so I was kind of dealing with it a little bit there, but that's where I kind of got a taste of if in the reserves, it's like your home life is your problem. Uh, whatever goes on the civilian end, that's for you to figure out. So
Yeah,
don't bring
yeah,
it here on the
yep,
weekend. And so it was something I had to just kind of bury with everything else. And I was already good at doing that because of active duty. And then when I got out, and then I didn't have the military to run to anymore, I didn't have people to take me away on the weekend to kind of get me away from my situation. Stuff just kind of got worse. And the way I try to tie it back to my military is to explain how lost you feel when you get out. And you kind of, I felt really bad because of the people that told me I should have sucked it up, and like, oh, like somebody did this to you. Oh, you're sexually assaulted, you're harassed, whatever. Get over it. If you
yeah,
wanted it that bad, you should have just figured it out. But then I try to explain like how lost you feel, and you kind of lose a sense of yourself. And I didn't really care. And my friends are committing suicide. So there's this moment of, whoever's going to accept me, so be it, because I'm broken. Like nobody, like, I don't deserve anything. And so I let really toxic people into my life, because it was like, I just need someone that's going to deal with the fact that I have all these issues.
yeah,
And the military really implanted a lot of this idea that I had more issues than I actually did. Like I was fully capable of working through them, but you just get it beat in that you're weak a lot. And so I let, this person in, and I experienced things like gaslighting, a lot of like narcissistic abuse. So it's a lot of emotional damage, because they tamper with how you see the world. And I already saw the world in kind of a skewed way because of how the military changes your view of the world. And so it was just another kind of institution to end up in, somebody that was telling me how to feel, what to think, when I could go outside, what I should wear. And it was the military again, in this singular form of a person, basically. And so for years, I dealt with a lot of emotional abuse, some physical abuse. And so the idea of writing then was, again, still transferring over that pain that I didn't feel like I was able to talk to anybody about, and trying to keep that soldier composure of don't let anybody show how much it's breaking you, even though you're completely shattered inside. And so when I began writing about the domestic violence, it was this idea of having a lot of people tell me soldiers don't deal with domestic violence. You're a veteran, aren't you trained? Your female engagement team, shouldn't you have been able to like kick his ass or something? Like, couldn't you have, why didn't you just shoot him or something? Like, people just had all these ideas of like, why didn't you just bring in like your combat role into it? And trying to explain kind of why that doesn't work, which I feel like you should be able to put it together why maybe you shouldn't shoot another civilian. Yeah. But kind of just trying to change this mentality of that soldiers or Marines or whoever you were in the military, that we don't deal with regular life stuff. Like everything we deal with is only related to military problems or combat or whatever, when it's like, no, like we still are humans at the end of the day. You still have human issues. We deal with domestic violence, assault, like all kinds of stuff. And so I wanted to bridge that gap in thinking that domestic violence was not a thing at all in the military, whether you're a veteran or active, reserve, whatever, it is still something you can face.
Yeah. And that's, going back to one of the things that you had said, with the fact that, and I can't relate more to it because I've seen it for the past 12 years of my time in the Marine Corps. Hey, your civilian life is your civilian life. Leave that shit at the door. And I say that because I've experienced it and I've seen it happen. So I had a Marine, very close friend of mine, still is, Lance Corporal Adamus at the time. And this dude went from being like, I remember him being, he was always a bigger guy, but he was in shape, he was in standards. And I remember, the physically fit, and all of a sudden, we came back from drill, and this is years ago, and we came back to drill, and all of a sudden he had just overnight just plopped and became like, and Adamus, I'm sorry, but he was literally, he went from like diesel to the Michelin Man, and nobody knew why. And even himself, he was like, dude, I don't have a bad diet. He was like, I go to the gym and all this stuff. And of course, everyone's like, oh, bullshit. That's what everybody says. So long story short, they put him on BCP, body composition percentage. Yeah, I'm sorry, body composition program. And they said, and they ended up forcing him out of the Marine Corps. And one of the things that had happened was, when you get beyond BCP, they start these workouts. And when I'll never forget it, he was like the master sergeant who was in charge, and the sergeant who was in charge was like, hey, we're going to go for this long run. And he just looked at them and was like, oh my God, it's going to hurt, huh? And then they went on this run, and he ended up freaking past both the master sergeant, who was a marathon runner, past the sergeant, and then ended. And he was like, oh shit, I thought you guys were going to smoke me. So like, they literally were like, oh, because he's big and he's oversized, he can't run. Dude, no, he's still a runner. But what ended up happening, and no one wanted to look into this, so he ended up going to medical and all this stuff, and they ended up, administratively separating him from the Marine Corps. And a couple of years later, I get a text message from him, and he was like, hey man, me and him kind of lost touch, but he was like, hey man, I just wanted to reach out to you and let you know that I have a brain tumor. And I was like, what? And he was like, yeah, I went to the doctors and I went to the hospital, and they found a brain tumor, and it's causing my metabolism and my thyroid and all of these things to be out of whack. And that's why I gained all of this unexpected weight. So he ended up having brain surgery, having it removed, lost all the weight. And now he's doing Muay Thai, BJJ. And it's like, why the fuck did nobody think to ask? The immediate answer is, oh, he's a shitbag. He's a piece of shit. He got fat. Just fuck him. Get him out of the Marine Corps. Okay, but no, that's not the situation. That's not what happened. So this past drill, when I checked into my new unit, there was like 10, 12 dudes that were completely like their bodies just looked like if you ever seen Willy Wonka Factory, like the blueberry, like that's what they looked like. And I was just like, no way. But immediately, because of everything that's happened to me in my past, instead of looking at them and being like, hey, you fat fuck, hey, or this, immediately I thought, okay, well, what's going on? I only see them two. Number one, I just met you. I don't know your background. And number two, what's going on the other 29 days of the month that I don't see? What's going on with you? Is there issues at home? Is there issues with your job? Is there, COVID-19? Is there issues with work? Is there issues with family? Are you broke? Are you eating ramen noodles because you don't have enough money to feed yourself? Like all these things are coming to my head. But the problem is that those things don't come into everybody's head. Everybody else is, hey, motherfucker, you're a Marine, whether you're, active duty or not, and you need to figure it out. Well, no, we don't all get paid to go to the gym every day for 2 hours. We don't get paid to do these things. So and that's the thing is, like you said, hey, leave your civilian job at the door. You're a Marine for these next 2 days. And again, another instance was I get off active duty, I go to the reserve program, and they wanted me to go to our 2-week annual training in the summertime. And I straight out told the CEO and the sergeant major, I was like, I have 2 kids and my wife has a job. I don't have childcare at 5 a.m. in the morning. Oh, well, you'll figure it out. And I was like, I just joined the reserves. I already have a SAT year. So just give me the waiver for the year and I'll ensure that next year I have an adequate plan to meet the training schedule. No, man. If you can't go to drill and if you can't be there for annual training, then you're going to have to get out. All right, well, sir, you know what? I guess I'm getting out. And then after I did it and I got out, he was like, oh, hey, I wanted to talk about it and see what we could do for you. No, you already gave me your ultimatum. You already decided what was going to happen here. But, so back to you. Sorry. So what, I really would say, like, if here's a really random question, but what would you say is the pot? Like, are you clearly, it's one of those things, I guess, you're clearly, you would never want what happened to you to happen to you. But the reality of it is because of everything that happened to you, you are where you are today. You have your podcast, you're doing your writing. So it's like, what encouraged you? I know we kind of talked about it, but what was it? Because people deal with domestic violence, people deal with these things all the time, but they don't stand up and speak. They don't get out there. So the question that I have is, what compelled you to start a podcast? What compelled you to start writing and to become an advocate for these people? And then also, what's your future plans with everything you're doing?
I think a lot of like what it came from, like talk about the domestic violence and the advocacy, was based off of how I started talking about stuff for the military end and addressing things like PTSD, what happens to people in deployments, to explain kind of that transition phase that happens when you come home after, life's moved on without you for a year, whatever you're gone for. And I started talking about that stuff because I did have a lot of male buddies and they couldn't talk about it. At least they didn't feel like they could. And I felt like, well, everybody expects me to complain as the female. So maybe I'll just talk for the people I know that are having the exact same issue. I'm expected to say it. So this is where I can continue kind of being your battle buddy after the service. I will speak where you can't, or for my buddies that were still in that didn't feel like they could say something. And so I learned that on that end. And so as a domestic violence survivor, it became the same idea. I got out of it and I know other people are dealing with it. I'm going to say what they can't. because I am now in a position where I can talk, and I know too well what being isolated feels like. I know what the silence feels like. I know what holding it all in until you feel like you're just going to explode. I know all those feelings, but I am in a place now where I can speak. There's no sergeant here telling me to shut up. There's no one here that can take my rank. You can't take my career away. There's not a lot of ultimatums that can get placed on me at this point. And so I just felt like I have to do something with what happened to me, because yeah, it sucks, but if I can make something positive out of it, it means I didn't suffer needlessly. And that was my biggest thing, was what good can I find in this situation? Because if I don't find it, I'm going to end up killing myself over it. Because if I just focus on how bad it was, it's going to take me out. And being a mom and stuff like that, I did not want to die. I did not want to quit at that level. And so it was like, I have to figure this out. I have to talk about it. And if it means helping at least one other person, I feel like I have a purpose again.
Yeah.
And so that was my biggest thing with the podcast, was I'm going to get on here because I don't like going to therapy. I don't like talking to therapists and stuff like that. I don't, especially civilian ones that I don't feel like understand what I've gone through. So podcasting was my talk therapy, because I could just get on and I feel like I'm talking to people, even though it's just me and my microphone. Like I'm not, there's nobody there, but I know somebody will be there eventually once it's put out, published and all that. And so, mentally it feels like you have an audience and you're just saying what you got to say. And so that's where it's been on both ends, military or on the domestic violence end, is just talking for the people that don't feel like they can express themselves yet, or for the people that feel something, but they're not quite sure what's wrong. They don't know why they feel like trash or whatever, or why they can't salvage themselves, why they can't get themselves to feel like they can fight to preserve what's left of them. And so that's really just the biggest thing, is that lack of purpose a lot of us feel when we get out, and it's just trying to find a way to reintegrate that into your life.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with what you're saying, because it's, finding that purpose and finding what it is that you want to do, or how to do, and I'll be honest with you, like I'm literally everything you're talking about, I'm living right now. Because I don't want to get out of the Marine Corps. I've never wanted to get out of the Marine Corps. My dream since 2011 was to retire as a master gunnery sergeant, become an 8412 career recruiter, change the Marine Corps recruiting command, change the world of the Marine Corps. And that was my dream. And a year ago, that was taken from me. I was fired and taken off the recruiting duty. And then I was told, hey, you can come back a year from now. And then in the midst of this year, COVID happened, and now they're mandating that you get the COVID vaccine and, all these things. And I'm personally not about it. So now I'm trying to get a religious exemption. And then I'll be honest with you, like I just had, follow this one guy on Instagram who he talked about it, and he's like, hey, mine just got denied. And, me and my wife were having this conversation, because I honestly was like, hey, listen, I believe that there's like a 0.1% chance that my religious exemption will come back. I believe that it's already ordained by the command that it's not going to get approved. Like they're giving you the opportunity to do it, but they're not going to do shit with it. They're just going to say, hey, we looked at it, but we're going to deny it, which is clearly already happening. So my thing with my wife was, well, even if it gets approved, do I really want to be in the Marine Corps that's telling you that, hey, if you don't get this, no matter what your religious thought is, you're no longer allowed to serve? Do I really still want to be a part of that? And that's the part that hurts for me, is because even, I'm just a reservist. I'm now out of the, off of active duty. Like, and I understand, like, for the Marine Corps, once a Marine, always a Marine, like the fear and the anxiety that comes with me no longer being in the Marine Corps is something that I don't want to part with. And it's something that was never a plan for me. It was never a plan for me. I if you ask anyone that I've ever met or talked to, I've said always, I'm going to stay in the Marine Corps as long as the Marine Corps will allow me to. Now that's gone. Like that person is literally gone. Like now I'm at the point where it's like, you know what? if my religious exemption doesn't get approved, well then you know what, I guess I'm getting out. And it stinks because again, someone who has these dreams, these aspirations, is now being forced out of the military because they don't agree with something. And there's a lot of people who feel that way but aren't saying anything.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. And again, going back to the domestic violence and going back to all those things, it's just a fucked up thing that people feel that they can't. Again, it's a weird thing for me because I'm the type of person where I come from that. I come from that, growing up the way I grew up and coming from the leaders that I've had, whether in the military and or in just the civilian world or in my own home, hey bitch, shut up, just deal with it. And I've had that. And I've also been the same person to say that. I've been the same person to say those things. But the thing is though, is that at some point, okay, well, you know what? I've let it go long enough. I need to say something. And the reality of it is that I think what's missing from, because everyone says, oh, mental health, but no one does shit about it, especially the people that are still actively serving in the military. It's like, oh, hey, guys, we're losing these lives, but we're not doing it. You know what? Let's create this PowerPoint presentation that's not going to do shit and no one's going to actually take seriously. Okay, well, why don't we sit down in an open environment and have these conversations and have open dialogue to where people can understand? Because the thing is that, like I had a sergeant major who recently retired, who I remember there was an all hands where we were all sitting in the room, and I really respected him for this because it was directly after somebody had committed suicide in our command. And he got up and he had a whole entire conversation with all of us, like 300 Marines. And he was like, listen, I've battled alcoholism. He's like, I've been divorced. He's like, I've battled suicide. He's like, I've battled PTSD. And he started getting really into the nitty gritty of it. And all of us stopped what we were doing to listen to him speak. And the amount of respect that we have for that man, the amount of just sheer change that caused, just more than a PowerPoint. Because it's like, and again, I said this before, but I understand that PowerPoints came from a place of good. There was a reason for them, but then it just became something that were, okay, hey, were you there for this? Sign this. And then when somebody does pass away, it's like, oh, well, hey, he got the training. It's like, bro, really? Yeah, it's like, really, bro? Like, and that's the thing that's messed up about it. And I think the biggest thing is that, and I've said this in other episodes, and you brought it up yourself, is that people just forget that simply we're all human. People forget that part. And I also think that a huge part of what happens is people get up to these ranks of gunnery sergeant, sergeant major, or sergeant first class, and they get all the way up there, and they forget what it was like to be a corporal or a sergeant or a specialist. And they're like, oh, I was never that guy. No, bitch, you were, because you're not perfect. And you had things that were going on. And that's the thing is, like, you have people that do all of these studies about the divorce rate, about the suicide rate. But then yet the funny thing is that right now you have people coming out and saying, the biggest problem with the military today is COVID-19. No, that's not the that's not the biggest problem. I have a Lance Corporal that I put in the Marine Corps, and today on Instagram he posted this, and I was dying laughing, and I was like, wow, I shouldn't be laughing at this. He posted it was a picture of his breakfast that he had received from the chow hall, and he's like, I pay $375 a month for this. He goes, the Marine Corps doesn't give a damn about my nutrition, but they care that I'm vaccinated. And it's like, it's the freaking reality of it. This is a guy who's literally infantry, who does pull-ups, who benches, who does all these different things, and you don't care about his nutrition at the chow hall, but you care about his vaccination status. And it's just, the whole thing is insane. So what's next for, you're also an author, right? You wrote how many?
There's 3 out right now.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about those?
So the first book is called Bottled Away: Confessions of a Struggling Veteran. And it basically, it just, it's a lot of notes I took in the military. So it covers everything from MST, dealing like the female on female harassment that happens, and trying to kind of explain where that comes from, what it's like to be deployed. Because my big thing when I came out was you don't have to have a badass war story to be able to talk about your service. You don't have to have some like Rambo action thing that happens so that people will listen to you.
Mm,
And so the idea behind like Cruise Corner was I want to show the average soldier's story, or
yeah.
any other branch that comes on, and show people that there's other things we can get from this. There's other perspectives
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
are going to help people feel like they've done something. I mean, you served, like that should be enough.
Yeah.
And so Bottled Away really just covered all these different topics of the military, and explaining that some of us that have PTSD, it's not from our service.
Yeah.
And some of us get tired of it being linked to our service. Like, again, as being a female, when I say, yeah, I've dealt with PTSD, people are like, oh, well, I'm sure the service was hard for you. It's like, no, shut up. Like, has nothing to do with that. Like, life happened after the service. I had a
Yeah.
life before and after. I've dealt with plenty of things. And so it was trying to show this perspective of this is where some of these things can come from. This is what some of us deal with. This is why when I come home from a deployment, I'm kind of distant and I don't want to talk to anybody. Or this is what happens on a deployment. No, I'm not outside the wire running around doing cool stuff, but this is why I'm affected, because
Yeah.
you're still gone.
No,
And
yeah,
so,
and that's the nothing, not to interrupt you, but like that's the thing about it is like, yeah, I've been to Afghanistan. Yes, I've been shot at. Yes, I've been blown up. But the reality of it is that even when those things happen, like, and I've said this in another episode, and I never forget it. I was at an event for Toys for Tots in my dress blues, and I saw this Marine that I knew years ago that I just haven't seen because he was active duty, and there was like a 6 year span in between this time. He comes up to me at the bar drunk in just civilian clothes, and he looks at my ribbons and he goes, he was an infantry Marine. He looks at me and he goes, bitch, you don't fucking rate that combat action ribbon. He goes, you don't fucking rate that shit. And I'm like, first of all, you know nothing about where, when when I got it. Who the hell are you to say I do or I don't? But it was just the idea that like you went out of your, now maybe if he wasn't drunk, he wouldn't have said it, but the idea that you went out of your way at an event to come up to somebody in uniform and then talk about what they have on their chest is like,
yeah,
and that's the problem. And it sucks because all of that toxicity it starts from the beginning of the Marine Corps. Some disgruntled PFC, there's some disgruntled Lance Corporal says, hey, this is how you have to act for now on, and you're going to act that way because this is how it's always been. Anybody that isn't a grunt is lesser than us, and that's the reality of it. And it's bullshit because that's why a lot of people commit suicide, because you have people who feel lack thereof. You have people who literally don't want to talk about their service because they never deployed and they've never been shot at, and they don't want to talk about it because immediately the civilian's first question is, oh, would you go overseas? And
yeah,
then
what did you do?
and then when you say, nah, bro, I didn't, it's like it becomes something more, or lack thereof. And it's bullshit because, like you said, there's people who will never, they'll never deploy, they'll never do, like, I know, and that was something I dealt with when I was on recruiting duty. Oh, I don't want to join the military and die. I don't want to join the military and deploy. I'm like, bro, I know master sergeants who've never deployed. And that's the thing is like, what, because he's a master sergeant who's never deployed, he doesn't rate, because
Yeah.
he doesn't rate to speak, he doesn't rate to do this. Oh, you never did your job in a combat element, so you're nobody. And that's the problem, is that, and even, and if and then on top of that, if that's the case, if that's the way that we want to go mentally with this, well, then that means that peacetime Marine Corps, peacetime Army, their service doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, if you're really going to go that way, because if you really think about it, half the time, all these sergeants that you meet, they have 2 or 3 ribbons. They've never been overseas because there's no conflict going on. You got to go over there, buddy. And, it's just the whole mentality is so freaking is so wrecked, and the things that people care about or lack or what they don't care about is so it's just such a bullshit. And then the fact that, like, and this is something that I'm going to say that, and I kind of said to it's effed up, but it's like, the fact that she had to go ahead and create a podcast, and that she doesn't feel comfortable enough about being, like, letting people know her face, like, that's bullshit. Like, the fact that you feel as a woman or as a military member that you have to stay hidden until you're EAS'd
Mhm.
is bullshit. It's even the same thing with me. Right now, there's a lot of things that I don't say because I'm still in the reserves and I'm still very carefully treading that line. But I get it to an extent. But when it comes to things like you guys are talking about, domestic violence, suicide, those are things that you should literally be able to freely speak about and not worry that someone's going to be mad that you brought it up.
Yeah.
And that's the problem, and people want to say, oh, well, that doesn't happen here, or, well, this doesn't happen here, or, no way, I don't believe that. Like, no, it happens everywhere, but and it's also the fact too that it also a lot of people have these issues with the fact of, like, oh, well, that's something that only happens in the military. No, it happens everywhere. And it just, I don't know, the whole thing is just, it sucks to know that you can't, freely speak your mind, and that you felt like, and same thing for you, you get out of the military, you're in the reserves, and you felt that you had to go under an alias to write these things, and you couldn't do. And it's fucking bullshit. It's freaking bullshit that that you have to feel that way and wait and bide your time until you can fully talk about what you want to talk about.
Yeah. No, it's hard. I mean, even now I kind of watch what I say to some degree because my husband's still active duty. And so I try not to be like, because he's stationed at the post that
Oh,
I'm
wow.
writing about.
Oh,
And
shit.
so I try to watch what I say for things because then I'm the army wife that comes in and it's like, I just wrote this book talking shit about the army wives from there. So it's like, oh, I probably shouldn't distribute my book on this post
Yeah.
because it's going to cause issues. It's going to go back to his command. And so I
Yeah.
try to kind of like promote it out
Yeah. Yeah.
away from our post so that,
And that's the thing that sucks, is like, I recently just thought about creating a nonprofit organization, without getting too much out there because I don't want someone to take it from me. But that was one of the things I was talking to one of my buddies who's a gunnery sergeant. He's still on active duty. And I was like, oh, he's like, well, what are you going to name it? And I was like, I'm going to name it Semper Sometimes. And he was like, dude, you got to be careful. I was like, what do you mean? He was like, well, if you just keep the same name, he's like, you're trying to promote this to the military, then they're going to be less inclined to take you seriously because of the name. And I was like, okay, I get that. But, like, what sucks is that, like, anybody who's still, I don't want to go ahead and say anybody, because there are people who are out there that create podcasts or that write books that literally are just still those, because those toxic people are going to still be there no matter where they are. So there are people who create podcasts to stir up hate, to stir up, issues. But, like, for people like us, everything that you are saying and everything that I'm saying is just things that everybody's thinking. And all we're trying to do is be an outlet for those people who aren't opening up. And also, like the episodes that I have about recruiting duty, I'm just trying to have some commanding officer hear an episode and realize that this is the shit his Marines are dealing with, but he doesn't want to realize it's happening. And again, I'm not doing anything or saying anything more than what I want to help, because that's the reality of it, is that there's people that need help but they're not getting it, and no one's doing anything about it. Or like the Marine Corps, they used to have this program where for when I was on recruiting duty, they had this program where they paid this woman to come and visit, and she would go office to office and she would just talk to you, laugh with you, and bullshit with you. A year later, she was gone. We all asked, hey, where'd she go? oh, well, the Marine Corps cut funding. We don't have her anymore. And it's like, bro, we're complaining about mental health issues and you cut funding to the one person who isn't in the military, who was walking around talking to people to help mental health.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. We should cut funding there. Like, what? And that's the thing is, it's like, and that's why, like you guys have talked about on the episodes, with the whole 22 thing, hey, everyone wants to talk about it. Everyone wants to do this push-up challenge, but what the fuck are you really doing to combat it?
Yeah.
Like, what do you, and then those same people that go online and post it on their Instagram and post it on their Facebook, they're the same motherfuckers who won't call you to say, hey man, how are you? How's your family?
Or they're the ones that deter you from wanting to call yourself, because it's just like everybody kind of just goes through the motions. It's like, oh, everybody's on this hashtag 22 thing, huh?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I'll get on it to show my support, but really where we need to show support is by doing, not by
Yeah.
just saying like, yeah, cool, 22 a day, like put your stuff on and show your support. Go get your semicolon tattoo so people know that you're someone that you can get, you can reach out to this person, but it's like, be that person.
Yeah.
Just
No,
approach somebody and just be
exactly.
like, dude, you look
Dude.
like shit. Like, what's
Yeah.
going on?
Yeah.
And like I was that person on deployment. Like I became like the deployment mom because I didn't have an issue sitting up there when I would have a private or something come in to sit with me that looked just like dog shit. And it's just like, what is going on, dude? Why
Yeah.
are you not sleeping? Why were you late today? What's going on? Is
Yeah.
something happening at home? And they would talk to me because it was like, one, I think it was because I was a woman. So it was like, it's a little more sensitive. Like I'm more sensitive to their feelings. I'm not going to sit there and like berate them for having human feelings. But it was just this idea of like, I genuinely showed that I gave a shit.
Yeah.
And, part of the tough love thing is getting people to talk sometimes, because it's like, I know how hard it is to pick up a phone when you're at that point of like, I need help.
Yeah.
I like that phone is heavy. It's hard to do. But if we reached out to each other more than just the 22nd day of the month, like don't wait
Yeah.
till the 20, don't wait till the 22nd to be like, are you alive? Like
Yeah.
if someone's putting out some vibes on social media or something like that, like reach out, like
Yeah.
shoot a DM or something, like just show people that you are willing to be receptive if they need it. They may not say anything right then,
Yeah.
but if we just present ourselves as like, hey, I care. And when you do feel like you can talk, like I'm here.
Yeah.
And that's where, for me, the podcast, because
Yeah.
like, I won't lie, I suck at reaching out to
Yeah.
people to check on them or to just like say what's up. Like everybody knows I don't fucking call. If you want to talk to me, you got to get a hold of me. But I put the podcast out for other people to show like, hey, this is a safe spot. So every guest I've had is pretty much 99% of the time is someone that has reached out to me that said, may I come on and talk? And
Yeah.
it's like, yes, come on, share your side of it. Nobody wants to hear me talk all the time. But it's this idea of like creating a space where people feel like that you are that. I don't have to put a t-shirt on to tell you that I give a shit. I'm going
Yeah.
to show you
No,
that I give a
100%.
shit.
Yeah, because even like me, like I, like me, like you'll meet people, or if you ever meet people and you act people that know me, they're gonna say two things. Yo, he's a fucking asshole. But then they're gonna say, but he really, really gives a fuck about you.
Yeah.
And that's the reality of it. Like I have Marines that I put in the Marine Corps who became Marines, and then they hit me up afterwards and they're like, yo, Staff Sergeant, thank you so much for being a fucking complete and utter asshole to me. Like, thank you so much, because that's how I was on recruiting duty. I would take your plan, I would destroy your plan, and then I would show you how the Marine Corps can help you with your plan. And then if you effed up or you didn't answer me, I would tell you to go kick rocks, but I would still be the person to reach out to you and be like, hey man, how's everything going? Even people that I never put in the Marine Corps. And then I have people now who reach out to me and who say that. They're like, hey man, thank you so much, because you showed me what the Marine Corps is going to be, but you also showed me that if I need to, I can hit you up. And that's the thing too, is like, I've had times. I remember I had 3 Marines when I was a brand new sergeant reach out to me at different times telling me they were going to commit suicide.
They called me. They decided to reach out to me, nobody else. And when I reached out to my command, my first sergeant literally said to me, "Why'd they call you?" I was like, "That's the only question you have right now? Like, not what's going on with the Marine, not what can we do to help this Marine. Your question is, why did they call me?" I'm like, no, the question you should be asking yourself is, why the fuck didn't they call you?
Exactly. Yeah. No, I
They
hear
they
the same
they
story. Same story
they
from my-
felt that when they were going to commit suicide in their head, they said, "Hold on, I have to follow the proper chain of command to do so." Like, like that's the
because when you have the person at the bottom of that tier that's a shitbag to talk to, that right there is already going to deter somebody from saying things. I remember my buddy that committed suicide coming to me going like, "I'm having these issues," and it's like, "Well, have you gone to this person yet?" And it's like, "No, because I can't."
Yeah,
that person will
'cause-
not understand
yep.
it, but that's my gateway to the next person
Yep.
on the tier.
And that's
so
the
I'm
thing
like,
too,
just
is
keep
like,
it, dude.
yeah,
Like,
no, and that's the thing too, is like I watched this dude over the weekend stand in front of the whole entire battalion and say, "Hey, I have an open door policy, but you better go to everybody else before you come to me."
then you don't have one.
Well, then you don't have an open door policy, bitch. The fuck?
You
Like,
have
what do
doors
you
open once
mean?
everybody's gone through every other step.
Like, hey, man, hey, I ordered. It's like me calling the pizza place. Yeah, can you deliver? Yeah, delivery. Okay, yeah. I have an open door policy. Just come in, but do me a favor. Knock on every door in my neighborhood to find out who ordered pizza. Like, bitch, no, you can't say I have an open door policy and then on the other issue say, but you got to go to everybody else to get to me.
But that's where they just, it's another part of that going through the motions to make it look like you're doing your part. But it's
Yep.
just, it's the whole smoke and mirror kind of thing. It's like you're throwing out enough
Yeah,
to play the whole, but it comes down to checking boxes and rosters. Like it's not, they give a shit about their numbers, not about whether or not you feel sad today. And that's the problem with a lot of the leadership in the military right
Yeah.
now, is that it's just like, did you go through the slides again? Did you
Yeah.
follow the protocol? Like, do
Yeah.
you need a pamphlet?
well,
Like,
it's even like it's even like talking about going back and talking about the transition thing. I recently got off of active duty, transitioned to the reserves again, and then I transitioned into a new civilian job. And I'm so used to, for the past 4 years of being on active duty, on recruiting duty, I'm so used to morning meetings, muster, calling in numbers. I'm so used to the proper greeting of the day that I'm literally, every time I talk to my director, I'm like, "Hey, good morning, Lorraine. Good morning, good afternoon." And she's like, "Doug, if you tell me another greeting in today, in the same day, we're going to have a problem. If you give me another update that I didn't ask for, we're going to have a problem." And it's like a lot of the stuff that now, again, I'm not saying that there's an issue with accountability. I'm not saying that the Marine Corps or the Army or anybody doesn't change you and make you better. I'm not saying any of those things. But the problem that there is that the human factor is completely lost 9 out of 10 times. The fact that, like, and it hit me one day because I've said this for years. And then one day it actually happened to me. I was in my civilian job, and the guy he's the boss of the whole entire school walked by me. His name is Dennis. He walked by my office. He opened my door and said, "Good morning, Doug." And I was like, no way. I was like, wait a minute. This dude who's in charge of everybody in the school walked by my door and gave me the proper greeting of the day. Like, he wasn't mad that I opened my door and ran out to the hallway to make sure I greeted him. Like, and that's the thing is, like, you think about it, 9 times out of 10, if and I've always said this since I was a freaking PFC in the Marine Corps, people will get mad. "Hey, why didn't you give him the proper greeting of the day?" Bitch, he saw me first. He saw me first. Why couldn't he give me the proper greeting? Do I not rate the proper greeting because I'm not a colonel? Like, can you not say, "Hey, good morning, PFC"? Like, that's manners. Fuck customs and courtesies. That's just manners. And that's something, again, I feel like people get so wrapped in their head that they become so entitled that they're like, yeah, you better say good morning to me. It's like, bro, but why can't you say good morning to me? Or why can't you, or if I was to walk by, and again, I understand reverence. I understand, I'm a Christian and I still call my pastor. Most people don't. They're just like, sir, or whatever, but I still call my pastor. And he tells me, hey, you don't have to call me pastor. I'm like, no, but you're a pastor. That's your title. I'm going to call you that. So I understand reverence, but there's no reason why you can't walk by somebody and just be like, hey, like, why do I have to stop? Good morning, sir. Like, that's gotta get annoying as fuck too. Like being saluted all day long.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think a lot. I understand the seriousness of it all. I understand all of those things, and I understand, because there's some of those old heads or some of the people that are like, the problem. Like I have this dude who's on my Facebook that I met at Corporal's course, who he is like, the problem with the Marine Corps today is that people are saying raw and people are, talking about eating crayons. So this is why the fighting force isn't still the same. And it's like, bro, will you shut the fuck up? Like, dude, don't talk about the fighting force and how it isn't as good as you wanted to when you got out as a corporal. Like, stop. Like, just stop. And it's, I don't know. But so my question for you, what advice would you give to anybody that is dealing with, sexual assault, violence, domestic violence, any of the plethora of different things out there? Like, what advice would you give to them, or anybody who right now is thinking, as they're driving their car, I'm just gonna turn left and fucking hit the snowbank, or well, it's not snowing out, but maybe it is where you are. But like anybody who's just looking at life and saying, you know what, I'm done. I'm better off not being here. Like, what advice do you have for those people?
My big thing is that you're never as alone as you feel like you are when you're going through something. And so, like, really the only advice I can give is like what I did was I looked for people that weren't necessarily like when I felt broken, like I'm gonna go find other broken people so we can bond. Like I'm gonna go find all the broken people because they'll understand it. But it's this idea of like I'm gonna find people because in finding people, I found those reasons to not drive off a bridge when it started feeling like the weight of everything was too much. And I learned that holding it all in was not doing me any good. And like for people that are in the military dealing with things like MST or even just harassment or just dealing with a crappy command, it's this idea of like, you can keep quiet about it, but whatever issues you deal with in the military, they don't magically disappear when you ETS or your contract ends or whatever. So the sooner you deal with it, the less heavy it's going to be over time. And so it's this idea of like, yeah, I get the whole mentality of keep quiet, don't do anything, but that's only hurting you.
Yeah.
And the people telling you to not talk about it, to not deal with it, that's where we started getting to that point of like driving off the bridge, getting the gun, doing whatever you got to do, because you can't hold that shit in. And you definitely can't do it by yourself. Isolation is the worst way to go if you are having any type of mental health struggles or just struggles in general, even if it's not mental health related. Being alone trying to go through stuff is not the way to try to go through it. And I think if people just saw that, even if you don't listen to all the podcasts, if you just see like how many there are, how many authors are coming out, all this stuff, like you're definitely not the first and you're not going to be the last that feels the way that you do.
Yeah.
Like there's plenty of other people that have already dealt with what you're dealing with. So if you feel like I am at the end, there's people that have written about meeting this point of thinking they're at the end and then doing something extraordinary. Like there's still something good to come. You may not feel like, okay, you know what, all the good things, like when I got out, okay, military was the high point of my life. It's time to jump off the cliff. But it's like, I found things later on that if I had taken myself out back then, I would have never known what kind of things were there for me.
Yeah. And that's like when the last episode that I dropped with Chad Robichaux, he anybody listening to this, I really truly encourage you. I didn't say it on the episode because it was a really quick episode, because he's a very busy guy. So I was lucky to get a half hour with him. Um, he has an episode. It's called "I Am Second," where he talks about his conversion into Christianity, but it talks about everything he went through: PTSD, suicide, and almost killing himself. And then he has another one that's called I believe it's on the same website, I Am Second, but it's called "Never Stand Alone," and that's where him and a couple of other veterans talk about suicide and feeling like they're alone, but they realize they're not. And he on my episode, he just goes in deeply into talking about how, I think he said, for the span of 2 weeks, he spent 2 to 3 hours a day in his closet with a gun, and he had his pictures of his family, of his children and his wife surrounding him, and for like a matter of days or weeks, he would sit in his closet and he would think about committing suicide with the gun to his head. And then on the day in which he finally was about to do it, and the only thing that stopped him from doing it was his thought was, my son has a key to my apartment. At this time, he was separated from his wife, and he was like, the only thing that stopped me from doing it every day was, what if my son comes to look to check up on me and he walks in? What if he's the one that finds me? So he ended up, not doing it all those times. And then finally, the day where he was supposed to do it, or he felt like he was going to do it, his wife came to the door, knocking on the door. And he goes to the door to talk to her, and he's mad at her because she had just interrupted his attempt at suicide. So he was mad. He's screaming at her. And then from what he said was that she looked at him and she said, you've been in the Marine Corps, you've done 8 deployments, you've never quit, but you'll quit on your family and you'll quit on the people that matter, and that, or something along those lines. And that was when he realized, like, I need help, and this is something, I can't do this, and I need to go help. And he ended up, becoming a part of a ministry and becoming, getting a pastor who led him through a year-long journey, of finding himself and, prayer and mental health. But, the point that I'm making is that man, the same guy that contemplated suicide for the past 10 or 11 years, created a foundation called Mighty Oaks, who he services veterans who've gotten out, to where he helps them with mental health. And then he also just created he also does leadership seminars where he goes throughout the world and he speaks to over 250,000 troops, for all branches. And then on top of that, he just created Save Our Allies, where him, Tim Kennedy, and a whole bunch of other people, they just, so far in 10 days, they saved 12,000 refugees from Afghanistan. And in the midst of them being created, they've saved about approximately 30,000 people. So, like you're saying, he's one of those people. Like, bro, he had a gun to his head numerous times, was going to click, was going to bang, and decided against it. And now here, look at what he's done, and this was 11 or 12 years ago. So, if you're somebody, like she said, if you're somebody who's going through these things, like, realize that everything you're going through is something you're going through today. It's not maybe it'll be back tomorrow, but just fight another day and continue to realize that you have a story to tell and you have changes to make, in your life and in other people's lives. And that, the biggest, and this is something that's hard for me to realize as I'm talking about it, as I'm realizing it, is that the military is a chapter of your life. That's it. That's all it is. It's a chapter in a book of your life. And you have to realize that you're the Marine Corps, the Army, the Navy, whatever branch you're in, it's not the whole book. And it's a chapter, and that's it. And now move forward into the next chapters. And hey, maybe your life is multiple books. Maybe, maybe it's like Harry Potter and we've got 12 books in a whole Chronicle series. Like, who knows? But your life doesn't have to be, 3 chapters and it's over. There's more to it. But before we end this, do you have anything that you want to share with us? Anything upcoming? Anything going on in your life right now, or anything that you feel like you want to get out there?
Actually, I released what was it? It was the 16th or something. I released my 3rd book. I haven't told anybody about it. It hasn't been posted on my page yet or nothing. It just became available on Amazon, and it's called Ease Pain, and it's poems about surviving domestic violence. And I know the title is kind of misleading because it's not going to be like poems about how to survive it. I'm not giving you like poetry on guidelines of how to like escape it or anything like that. But what it is in terms of the survival part is what I used to deal with it. It was how I survived getting through. It was the poems I wrote to kind of just accept kind of what was going on, that I couldn't talk to anybody at the time. So it's just poems that were written in a really tough time. So that is coming out, or is out. I'm going to eventually have a post up. I ordered a copy so I can check it. So I'm hoping, I'm hoping I can get it. It's supposed to be here today. So I need to check the mailbox, but I'm hoping to have it posted on Cruise Corner either today or by Monday of what it actually is, the links and all that. So if people check out Cruise Corner, they'll be able to stay updated on that. And then there should be another poem book. If I stay on track, it should be out by Veterans Day.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for everything that you've told us. Thank you. I'll definitely be looking into the books, the poetry, and everything you're doing. And just thank you so much again for, everything that you're doing, being an advocate for people, being a voice for the people who don't have one. And, for anybody who is listening, understand that you do have a voice, and your voice does matter. And, speaking for the both of us, reach out to either which one of us. If you feel like maybe one of us is the better person to talk to, that's why we're here, is reach out to us, talk to us if you're going through anything, and go give her episode a listen, go give her podcast a listen. And again, just thank you for coming out, and I really appreciate it. And, thanks for everything that you're doing, and thanks again.
Thanks for having me. It was great.
All right. Thank you.